there was a responsibility from the financial markets, which after the creation of the euro lent to Greece as if Greece was Germany. So this is a huge responsibility from the financial markets. And then suddenly there was a shock, total shock. Then Greece is having to implement reforms in 3 years that should have been implemented in 30 years. So I think, well, they'll decide on the mid-June, but my guess is that Greece will stay in the Eurozone. It will be exactly the same as Spain, not because there is a total pressure, an undemocratic pressure from the Eurozone or from the Eurozone leaders, but because the wish of the people partly is rather to stay. But we'll check this on mid-June.
Well, that wish might be fear, actually, just the lack of any other coherent plan.
Yes, with your permission, just beyond Greece, the lessons out of this crisis is that the European construction, the Union, it's not a lot of fair, by the way. It's not a lot of fair. Or if it was a lot of fair, it's not any longer. I'm dealing with the so-called Franco-German couple. France and Germany are described as a couple. Very, very old couple. I know some couples, 60 years old couple, we are still in love, passionately in love.
They have to be French too.
Yes, but I would say the vast majority of the diplomatic couples are couples based on interest. And then one of the lessons out of this crisis, including in Germany, including in France, not only in Greece, is that, of course, the fact to be part of the euro contains some inconvenience. There are negative aspects. But if you compare with the fact to be out, if you compare basically with the fact to destroy the monetary union, you choose to stay in, you opt in, and that is why every time since the beginning of the crisis, decisions have been made in the good direction, too little, too late, but all the time in the good direction. Not because there was a kind of sentimental move from one public opinion to another, or from one leader to another one, but simply because very concretely there was an arbitration made by, through the advantage to opt in or to opt out. It's the case in Greece, the same in Germany, the same in Spain probably, the same in Ireland, the same in France.
I don't know if it's allowed just to jump in, because I just want to say something, and I think it links back to what you were saying as well, because at the time the Greeks were admitted 2 years later than everybody else. It was just a year before the common currency was issued. I think most people basically said they're not ready for that. They've been touching the figures, there was all that kind of stuff. The answer was at the time, oh come on, they're 2 or 3% of the total economy, nobody will know. Everyone always just bail them out. This is not going to be an issue. But actually it has been an issue, and I think it's one of the reasons that there's been so much attraction to Europe. Also because it doesn't resemble anybody else, because everything is wrong in Greece, right? The deficit is bad, the debt is bad, the public sector efficiency is bad, the economy is growing, and worse than that, the competitiveness perspective is very low for Greece, because this is not just about implementing the austerity program. This is also to make Greece a modern country in Europe, to be able to stay in the Eurozone at a longer term. And I don't want to make the coupling to Spain, because Spain actually did a lot of fiscal consolidation before the crisis. They were running a government surplus, and the debt is still relatively small. I'm not saying there's no problems there. They're not created by bad public sector management. They're created by private households who just embark themselves into a feast created by the lowering of the interest rates, the house of all that kind of stuff, and then reflected on the financial sector. Ireland is a different case, Portugal is a different case. And I simply cannot believe that there will be anybody in Spain standing up and say, well, now Greece left the euro, so we will do as well. Because I think the horror scenarios of Greece will basically scare everybody away from it. And by the way, I've never heard anybody seriously talk about this issue in Spain. I heard a lot about the financial markets, but that's another story. Let me also just say, if the Greeks, as we do not have a federation, if they say we don't want to stay in this, let them get out. I don't think we should leave the euro, either or. but they should know that this is not just about austerity banking, this is also about improving the competitiveness of the long term.
But let's say Greece doesn't. Maybe perhaps Spain doesn't. It certainly affects the notion of or the idea of the European Union and of a greater union, whether monetary or political, as being an appealing thing for countries like Georgia or for states that would like to see ascension. But Douglas, you've argued that there's a hypocrisy of democracy within the European Union, but it's hard to argue that it hasn't proved to be a model in places like Latvia, Estonia, countries that have significantly improved their governance with the eye towards moving into Europe. So, certainly when the European Union is on, let's say, a country like Belarus, so it's still, there's an attraction, wouldn't you say?
Well, for instance, on human rights records is another one. Almost all of the advantages of the direction of travel people feel impelled rightly to go into in relation to membership of the EU, in relation to human rights and so on. You can also gain from entry into the Eurovision Song Contest. As Azerbaijan has just shown, there are standards and norms expected if you're